Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jonathan Lindo. I'm a VP of Product Management here at CA Technologies, and I'm really excited today to share with you some practical tips and suggestions and recommendations on how to achieve a really high-performing, successful mobile application. So before we get started, I want to start with a little bit of audience participation. I want to ask the people in the audience here, how many folks have their banking application, their bank's mobile application on their phone today? Let's see a show of hands. Okay, keep them up there for a second. How many of you just love that banking application? How many just absolutely think it's fantastic? Now, how many of you think it's so fantastic that you have actually gone to the App Store and put a 5-star review on that application in the App Store, right? Well, today I'm really excited because we have the good fortune of being joined by some folks from Frostbank who have just been phenomenally successful at deploying out their mobile application to their 400,000 customers. And this has been so successful, it's really almost unheralded. They have an application that has really reached out and delivered on the mission statement of this bank, which is all about customer service. So today I'm excited to share that with you. We're going to have the opportunity to talk with a couple of the team members that made that possible. You know, Frostbank is an organization that's been around for almost 150 years. They're phenomenally focused, just laser beam focused on customer satisfaction and on delivering the best end user experience. So much so that earlier this year, they were awarded by J.D. Power with one of 50 Customer Satisfaction Customer Champion Awards. And this is an award that goes out to only 50 companies in the United States across 17 different industries. So it really is quite a significant accomplishment. And here are some of the results that this team has been able to achieve. I think these speak for themselves. You know, your customers are really the ones that define how successful you are. And here we can see the incredible response that their mobile application has had. And if we look at the kinds of feedback that are coming back, it just tells the story beautifully. I mean, their customers are so enamored with this application. They think it delivers so much value that not only do they love it, they go in and they put 5-star reviews in the App Store. And this center one talks to some of the risks that we all face if we don't deliver that 5-star experience, where the user is talking about switching banks, right? So I'm very excited today to have this opportunity to share with you guys a couple of the suggestions and the strategies that have been put in place by Frostbank. And I think they really echo a lot of what we keep hearing from our customers around the challenges and overcoming those challenges around delivering a successful mobile application. So number one, in order to deliver a successful mobile application, you've got to have visibility into your mobile infrastructure. We hear this again and again. This is what our customers are telling us. You've got to be able to see down and understand what that end user is experiencing on their phone, on their tablet, on a daily basis. Number two is you've got to make sure you're delivering the right value. That means understanding what your users are looking for. What are the most popular features in that application? What should you be focusing on? And the third thing, and perhaps the most important, is being able to collect the feedback, hear the voice of your customer, be able to have that channel of communication open with your end user so that when they do have a subpar experience, they can tell you about it. They're not going and picking up the phone or writing an email, or worse, going to the App Store and putting a 1-star review in the App Store as a rating on your application. And so what we keep hearing again and again is that success with your mobile application is not something that you should think about as a destination. Getting the app in the App Store is just one aspect of being successful. You've got to think about this as a journey, continually improving, continually getting feedback from your customers, understanding what they're doing and how to improve that end user experience. So with that, I want to just quickly show you a video that really exemplifies how laser beam focused on customer satisfaction and end user experience Frostbank is, and I'm going to run that for you right now.
Does your bank have an app? Does it let you transfer money and pay bills? What about mobile deposits? You can do all that with the Frost app. But in fact, our app's most advanced feature also happens to be its most human.
Thank you for calling Frost. How may I help you? Yes, I had a question about my account.
It's good stuff. All right, so with that, I'd like to welcome up to the stage Tom Wilson, who's Vice President of Tools and Engineering for Frost Bank. Tom, if you could please come up. As well as Dan Newburg. Dan is a Senior Network Analyst, as well as on the APM side with Frost Bank. And if you guys want to grab a seat, and we'll have a little discussion about some of your secrets that you guys can share today around the success you've experienced with your mobile application. So maybe we could start off, if you'd like to just give a little bit of a background and an overview on Frost, and tell us a little bit about the organization and what makes you guys unique.
Yeah, sure. As Jonathan mentions, Frost's been around for a long time, 150 plus years. You might imagine there's a lot of entrenched culture into the company itself. Back in the early 2000s, way before mobile was the real issue, we made some decisions as a company to invest very specifically in controlling our own future and our web presence. And so we started doing custom development of our website even then, which gave us a competitive advantage over banks that we saw as our competitor at that point. And we weren't, as it were, in the control of a particular vendor. And as that same philosophy has gone forward. And so when mobile apps started becoming the rage, particularly iOS and Android, we strategically developed for those two platforms.
Right. So focus on what your users are really looking to fulfill in terms of their needs and requirements.
Right.
So what do you think has made the Frost Bank mobile application so successful? What have you guys focused on that you think has achieved that?
Well, Frost is a heavily culture-driven company. So much so that when we talk about the way we do business, we have three core values: integrity, caring, and excellence. And those three core values drive our culture as a whole, including how we developed our app. And that last one of excellence really drives how we deal with our customers. And so as we developed the app, and honestly, I'm getting credit for nothing I did. We do the monitoring side of it, right? Yeah. We don't do the development.
And you guys launched this application about 2.5 years ago, I understand,
yeah, that's about
iOS.
Right. About 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. We made some very specific choices. While we wanted to be leading edge, we wanted to do it in a way that was done with excellence. So there were certain features we distinctly chose not to put in the application when it was delivered. And what it did is it told our customers, whatever we give you with excellence. And as we always say, you can actually go, if you go to whatfrostbelieves.com, we have this little thing we call the Black Book. If you ever go into one of our branches, you can pick it up. But one of the things we talk about, we don't use technology to replace interacting with customers, we use it to serve our customers. And so if the technology isn't delivering an excellent experience and is a service to the customer, it's of no use to us. And so It's been a real focus culturally for us.
So just fanatical focus on the customer and their needs. How about continuous delivery and DevOps? I don't know, Dan, do you want to speak to that a little bit in terms of how Frost has been able to apply some of those strategies?
Sure. Actually, we're kind of, our development teams have undertaken an Agile methodology, which aligns with CA's approach to things. DevOps we've always had a great relationship between our developers and our operational groups. They're not afraid to sit down and have lunch together at all. We've actually, one of our most recent projects was a re-platform for our infrastructure, and we had an opportunity to just all sit together and work through any sort of technical difficulties as we encountered them. Operationally, we're still kind of working through that. I wouldn't say we're 100% DevOps there. Our development group is.
Success is a journey, not a destination.
Success is a journey, exactly. Yeah.
Good. And so maybe that's something that we hear again from successful organizations that I get the opportunity to talk to is when you have the ability as a development team to think about your operations team not as those guys over there in Building 5, but as Mike and Harry and Sue, sure. And you have a name to a face, you know that when you ship this software, those are the people that are responsible for running it, deploying it. It sounds like you guys have done a very good job at achieving some of that.
Absolutely.
Maybe could you speak to, maybe Tom or Dan, speak to some of the challenges or maybe some of the stories of the war stories that have got you guys where you are today?
Well, we've got plenty, but There's a couple that come to mind. One thing I'll tell you, we've really been making a pretty intentional shift to an Agile-based methodology and development, which is forced operations, to go into more of an Agile approach on how we do deployment. So there's a lot of release automation that we've built over this time. But one of the things that resonates with us that you guys really focused on is the idea that we have to have visibility into what's going on. One of the recent ones within the last year or so that happened, as proud as we are of the 4+ star rating we get on our app, we did not do so well in one release. We actually had a lot, it crashed. I mean, basically what happened is our customers installing the app on iOS, it was crashing. And of course we knew this from the call volume that was coming in. I mean, we have a 73-page report that we review for all these metrics that we go over for our internet-based banking platform. We knew there was a problem. What ended up happening, very bluntly, is we took customers, we literally called them and said, would you come, and our developers are going to meet with you, and we're going to figure out what's going on. And so we brought the actual customer in, sat down with them, and figured out what the crash issue was. To be real honest, we would like to be, Dan and I were just talking about this earlier. I mean, you might want to talk about that a little bit. We were talking about, how do we not do that again? We don't mind bringing a customer in, but we'd like not even have to do that. And that's kind of where we go next.
Yeah, and like another war story was this replatform that I just mentioned. We actually encountered an issue where we weren't able to provision new installations of the application, and we also encountered prolonged authentications. And these are things that we did not have visibility to.
Right.
We actually we didn't have identification except through our customer feedback channels.
Right. So you had customers saying, hey, it's taking me 60 seconds to log in.
We feel pain.
Or 90 seconds to bring up a CA World mobile application.
Yes, yeah.
But you know, no. But you didn't have any ability to see down into that and pull that data back. So being such a data-driven organization, you talk about the 73-page report. I think you shared a bit of that with me as well. What are some of the main KPIs, your key performance indicators that help you guys understand how you're doing and to maintain that 4.5 star rating?
Yeah, we do a 13-month look back. Something else I should mention, you talk about strategic. Not only we decided in the early 2000s that we would build our own platform for the internet, we also made that same decision about data warehousing. And I realize these are very common decisions probably among larger organizations. For us as a mid-sized bank, we're now about 27, 28 billion in assets.
Right.
Back then we were less than 10 billion. And we made some real strategic decisions. If we were going to grow, this is what we're going to have to do. So we're able to collect that data, but as we look at metrics, we look at a 13-month look back. So we're comparing year over year of what's happened. Number of logins per platform type. So you can access traditional browser-based app on your desktop, but then we can look at mobile platforms and tell you number of logins on iOS versus Android versus who uses text-based banking versus who uses just a generic mobile app. I mean, these are things that Dan instruments so that we can actually monitor and see. And it's not only that, we see the performance time. So one of our SLAs is all logins need to be below 3 seconds.
Right.
So we track that. That's actually done with the CA APM tool, or Wiley, for those of us that have been around for a little while. Yeah, the CM component. Mm-hmm. We do logins, specific transaction types get analyzed as well. I go down, like I said, it's 73 pages. We look at the amount of revenue, the amount of deposits that are made on a mobile device. So we can tell you, these are the number of checks, and this is the amount that was deposited. We go through all these things because we're trying to link what our customers are using our app for, why they're using it, and at times, why are they stopping using it? Why don't they go to...
Where's that drop-off happening?
Yeah, why they stop here rather than progressing forward in a particular transaction type.
Right.
So, to get to 73 pages, there's not much that we discriminate against.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that level of visibility is clear for the whole organization to see in terms of how you're doing and how to improve as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, our executive, or actually I think he's a group executive vice president, he reports straight to our CEO over our e-commerce division, a guy named Bobby Berman. His statement is, MyFrost, which is our app, that's how your authenticated app, it is the largest branch we have for our customers.
Yeah.
And that's true, you hear more and more. I go into our branches for one reason. I get free notary services. So when my kids have to have something notarized, we go visit the branch. Other than that, I don't go in the branch. I use our smart ATMs or I deposit via our mobile app, and that's how I go in.
Right. And so, we've talked about data collection, data-driven analysis, and analytics. How much are you guys looking today? Let's talk today, and then maybe in the future. How much are you looking at performance as they come in from different mobile devices, different carriers? How much of that is playing into how you look to develop your application? Are you considering, low bandwidth, restricted bandwidth situations, older devices? How do you guys reconcile that?
So some of the metrics we collect, for example, is platforms, not just Android versus iOS, but we want to capture specific device manufacturers. Are they coming out of Samsung, HTC, Apple, obviously, et cetera. So we look at those and begin to understand what our customers are using, what device types they're using. Right. Because it tells us what we need to develop for moving forward. So we're analyzing that data as much as we can get our hands on it. Sometimes it's a challenge. And it's actually one of the reasons why we started looking at CA's mobile app analytics, because we wanted greater visibility to link specific customers with specific device types. Due to, as Jonathan knows, and just share a little bit, as we've worked in partnership with CA on POCing the mobile app analytics, one of the major things we've looked at is actually being able to tie a specific customer with a specific device without having to do it in such a way that would compromise the person's security or privacy. So what we do is we basically, if we can get a unique device ID, when our customers sign up, we know what that is. So while you got the phone, you can find it out. We actually enrich the data once we get it in-house, so we can tie that. And now when we see a specific customer has a bad experience, we will pick up the phone, and it's no kid. Every one of you can do it right now if you want. Call Frost. You will not get a call tree. We really believe you should get a human 24/7. I know there's another bank that's like, hey, call us anytime. You can get someone on the phone. Well, welcome to our age. We've been there for a while, right? That's where we've been. Because we take that very, very seriously. Yeah. And that's where we want to go next, proactive customer service. Mm-hmm. I can call you because I know you had the problem. Mm-hmm. Tell me why, what happened. And hopefully it's something as simple as, well, I was texting and driving, I probably shouldn't have, but,
right.
But if it's not.
So you folks have started a few months ago using the mobile app analytics. What drove you to that? I mean, it's probably pretty clear some of the conversation we've had, but maybe speak a little bit, Dan, to what kind of problems or questions are you looking to get answered through a solution like mobile app analytics?
Sure. I'm going to echo a point that Tom brought up with just our customer-centric focus, and that we want to do the proactive call-outs whenever our customers have poor experiences with the application. Another factor that's really driving this is that we are interested in the mobile to the end of the architecture visibility in the environment. So we want to know how the user's experience is performing on the mobile device through our stack, and really just using that to again with our analytics platforms to enhance that experience.
So that end-to-end visibility, sometimes it's referred to as mobile to mainframe. You might have heard Mike Gregoire talk about that.
Sure.
That's something that you guys are really looking to achieve, it sounds like, through the use of mobile app analytics. So you guys have been with CA as a partner for a number of years. Maybe talk a little bit about how that partnership has been, and how's it worked out for you guys?
We've been with CA now. Let me take a step back. We've used CA products basically when we saw CA as a mainframe company. So it's been, that goes back 15 plus years. In earnest, we really started a relationship on more than just a mainframe product roughly about 5-6 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it spans the gamut in different areas, not just in app monitoring, but also we have service management tools as well. And I'll tell you, as my sales guys will tell you, I'm not always kind. So we've had our rough spots. However, CA's not backed off the relationship. It's never been, okay, we're not going to help you. Even when we've hit rough spots, we've worked through it. And we've gotten through issues. We've had some very deep technical issues they've worked through with us on. Yeah. One of the things, though, I'll tell you, the whole mobile to mainframe piece, one of the things that sold us on Wiley or CAAPM when we bought it was that ability to see end to end. That's what we really want to be able to see. And it's basically reduce mean time to repair, understand where the real issue's at, get the right resources on it, and stop having everybody run around trying to fix a problem. It's the airplane in the sky problem. One of the things, just an example, what CA did, we were trying to get our mainframe piece working. And to be real pointed, our mainframe administrators can be a little challenging at times. And CA sent a resource, and I always laugh about this. It's probably one of the best things that happened. We came down and we took our mainframe guy out to dinner. And next thing we knew, we had mainframe monitoring in place. And we were bringing this into Wiley. And that's a people thing, it's CA's commitment to the relationship that allowed us to do that. Because that person, I learned over dinner, he plays the trombone in a marching band. I didn't know you could march in a band when you're 60, but you can. In any case, it was that type of commitment to the relationship that made a difference. And it seems insignificant until you're there and you're like, how do I get over this hurdle? That's a technical it's a technical thing, but I can't fix it technically. I got a relationship issue.
I haven't come across too many problems that a Texas steak dinner could not resolve.
Yeah,
so let's talk a little bit about mobile again. So you guys have achieved, I think by all accounts, phenomenal success with your application thus far. For folks that are out there looking to achieve that same level of success, let's talk about 2 or 3 takeaways, recommendations, strategies that you think could be employed or should be employed to reach that level of success.
One I'll say is visibility. In all seriousness, we talk a lot about metrics, but metrics are so that we can understand customer behavior and what is or isn't working. So if you don't have visibility in the app, you're toast before you get out the gate.
Right.
You're guessing and you're not basing decisions off empirical facts, and it's no fun for anybody to be making those decisions. The second thing I'll tell you is, and it goes back to our cultural value of excellence, you can't just throw things out. I think you said it earlier, you can't just throw something in the App Store. I realize there's a balancing truth here, and I was kind of laughing about Biz Stone. I realized, based on his model, like my life would be a lot easier if we could do it that way. But the balancing side of that is that you do have to do things with excellence. And if you don't, it gets you in a lot of trouble. And honestly, it's a lot of finger pointing.
Yeah, I think Biz was the antithesis to a data-driven decision making, right? It felt good. We shipped it on Friday.
But I do think we should all have fun. I'm in with that.
That would absolutely, yeah. So, how about you, Dan? I mean, anything that's sort of you think has been a cornerstone of your success, some key maybe tools or strategies you've employed that have been really successful?
Really, it's our journey towards being DevOps centric.
Okay.
Just the ability for our groups to team and do that successfully, and that really speaks to our core value, or one of our mission statements of our objective to achieve excellence. Mm-hmm. So everyone is invested in delivering an excellent product to our customers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how about things to avoid? Any things, lessons learned, or things you've seen other folks try that have fallen flat, or things that you've tried that really haven't hit the mark as well as you'd hoped?
We're perfect. I don't no.
You don't deal with mainframe admins?
Yeah, don't deal with our mainframe brethren. But one of the things that I look back is if you don't have strong ownership, you have a real problem. And something we've fought that I'm sure a lot of organizations fight is the outsourcing issue. Mm-hmm. What do we send to offshore or nearshore development? What do we keep in house?
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's more than one way to skin the cat. But I'll tell you this: for us, our app is becoming the main way in which we interface with a vast majority of customers. By the way, one of the metrics we look at is the age of the people that use our mobile app.
Right.
So we can tell you by age breakdown is what age range you fall into and use it. I have 5 children, and all of which I can tell you right now, I actually had to explain to them what a bank branch was because they didn't know what it was. They really didn't.
But they knew how to deposit a check.
They knew they knew how to deposit their check and put it in their account. Dad,
right.
You need to deposit that and transfer it over, no problem. Right. But the strong ownership issue, if you don't own your app, if you don't own mm-hmm. your code base, mm-hmm. and you don't control its direction, and don't know where you want it to go, you're in trouble from the start out the gate.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as the guy that does the monitoring piece, right? I mean, this isn't, but I will tell you, that's exactly our executive management. They realized very early on, this is what we have to own because this is how we interface with our customers.
So that was a conscious decision that you guys made early on to bring all that development in-house, build the expertise, build the talent around delivering a mobile application, and you developed it natively as well, from what I understand, right?
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
The native app we looked, and they're native both on Android and iOS.
Yeah.
So
And that was a conscious decision. I mean, for folks that are looking and considering hybrid versus native, do you guys have any insight? I mean, I understand where you land on that, but maybe things have changed in the last couple of years.
we've been talking a lot about that internally. Where things are at in the market right now, we're going to stay native.
Yeah.
It would be great from a development perspective if we could develop it all in HTML5 and using JSON and JavaScript and we're all good. We don't see the platforms there yet.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see the decisions that both Google and Apple make on where they want to go forward, because to some degree, they control where we get to go in the future.
And we're seeing an interesting trend as well, where customers are actually moving back from hybrid platforms to native platforms. I've talked to a couple of customers now that are making that strategic decision, and I'm sure we're going to see improvements on the hybrid app platforms as well. But there is that trade-off of speed to market versus quality that seems to be a factor there. So I want to try to leave a couple of minutes for questions if folks have any at the end. But maybe you guys could share a little bit about as much as you can, what's coming in the future. Where do you see, the next set of features, the next set of value being delivered, either through your application or more generally in the industry through, for mobile devices?
Well, I think a little bit with the Apple Pay, and Dan can talk to this. He's been involved in this project more than I have. I mean, that's kind of one of the next big things that we see on the horizon, like immediate horizon, is Apple Pay. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking to support Apple Pay with our application. Other things that with our application that are on deck is to provide a more consistent experience between our traditional internet banking application and the mobile application. The full feature set's not available on mobile yet, so some users do have to get driven there.
Get to parity there.
There's but yeah, just conforming with whatever the additional trends are, like the recent announcement of Apple Pay.
Right. Great. All right, well, I think we have just a few minutes left, and I want to make sure that folks that are here maybe have some questions for our panelists or myself. We've got my colleague Arun here with the microphone, so maybe just throw your hand up if you have a question. All right, here we go.
So just wanted to understand, is there other items or applications that you looked at before you picked MAA, and any reason why you maybe chose MMA?
Yeah, we actually use a competitor product. I guess I won't name them just to be kind, but okay. We actually have a competitor product we use currently with our mobile app, as well as outside of our mobile app. I'll be honest, in an ideal world, we would just have a single app and not have to have multiple, because it makes challenging on some of the metrics. The reason why we chose to look at MAA is because of the end-to-end visibility. So what we ultimately want is the ability to see from the time it leaves a mobile device or on the mobile device to our back-end mainframe, which is effectively our terminal endpoint for most of our transaction, how things perform. We have been spending time over the last several years to build that out with Wiley and using the cross-APM or cross-enterprise APM on the mainframe side, which Greg Shriver is the guy that's helped us a tremendous amount there. But now what we're moving into is to now extend that outside of the Frostbank infrastructure, right? That's our next move, and that's why we looked at MAA seriously.
And to add one more thing to that, with the other competitive solutions that we evaluated, we weren't able to find our ability to isolate session data or crash analytics to specific users. And with MAA, we're partnering with CA to help arrive at that.
And I think it really is a key takeaway for us. We want superior technology. So that's just kind of an assumed thing when we go in. But relationally, as we work with Jonathan and his team, one of the things, they've been very willing to listen to feedback on what we wanted to see in the product. Some of them are very basic. It had no direct benefit to CA, and I'll give you an example. SQL Server backend. So if you look at the architecture of the app, we wanted SQL Server as a backend database because they actually use a Cassandra database to store most of the analytics, but they use SQL Server or Oracle to store the that can fix, I'm oversimplifying this and I apologize ahead of time to the architect, but that was important to us from a cost perspective. If Oracle's here, I apologize in advance, but we were getting raped and pillaged by Oracle. And we would, so we were not quite so abused by Microsoft, and I realized everyone has their own relationships, but in our case, there was no benefit to CA. They could care less, right? They're not selling us Oracle, they're not selling us SQL, but that's something his team listened to. But my point being is it was a relationship, and they were willing to listen to our feedback, and like Dan said, we actually believe CA is going to develop a competitive differentiated feature and be able to assign users and say this came from this particular user. That's been real key to us as well.
All right, I see the clock on the wall is telling me that we're done, so I'd like to say thank you to everybody who came today, and especially thank you to Tom and Dan for joining me on stage and sharing some insights. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.